I'm an open book, man. We can dive
Okay,
right in.
right on. Hey, man, it's great to meet you, Mark. Thank you for taking a minute out today. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, sir. Me too. So let's begin our journey into your good work by asking you this. 5 years ago, this pandemic changed so many things about our lives, from business to personal. How did you get through that era, and how has it influenced the way that you live and do work in 2025?
So I had a very unique situation when it came to the pandemic. We had just moved to South Carolina in about the previous year and a half, but I was running national sales for a mortgage company that was growing into the pandemic. And then I don't know how much you tracked kind of the mortgage industry or what happened to interest rates over that time period, but interest rates dropped, right? When there's risk to the economy, people look for safe places to put their money. One of those safe places is mortgage-backed securities and U.S. Treasuries, drives interest rates down. And so we had a refinance boom in the mortgage industry. And so while a lot of people were looking for work or were getting used to working from home, we were already, all my sales team's already all over the country. So being remote, we were kind of set up very well to do that. And then we went from having a decent amount of work to do to loans being poured on our heads. And the job went from, as head of national sales, we went from trying to find more loans to how do we get all these loans done? And so it started kind of an 18-month wonderful time in my life, life-changing time. We made life-changing money in the mortgage space, and it was a really amazing time to be there. But when I tell you that there were, especially towards the kind of in that April, May, June range of that first year, when I was telling you I was putting in 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's like was real for a while. So that was an adjustment. And then one of the things that came out of that is that when rates went back up and the mortgage industry really slowed down, I was just starting in my 40s and I'm a builder. And so we went from, hey, we're building to, hey, we're going to hang out until rates go back down. And that really wasn't for me. And so that's when I left the mortgage industry and really went into this consulting, sales, marketing thing that I'm doing now. Mostly because I wanted to help other people build their companies in industries that had more action at the moment.
So let's get into the marrow of what you do on a daily basis for your business. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of 12-year-olds. They always get the truth out of us. It's career day, you're at a school, and the kid in the back of the room is like, hey, what do you do for a living? What's your answer?
Yes. I help founders of mid-sized companies, usually 2 million in revenue or maybe 25 million in annual revenue, build sustainable growth engines. And we help them go from where they are now to where they need to go to get to that next revenue spot. And we do that by aligning their core four. And so if you're a 12-year-old, it would be, hey, how do you tell the world what you do? How do you get it in front of the right people, that message, so that you're getting in front of the people you want to help the most? How do you then get those people to buy your product or your service? And how do you make sure you deliver that at an exceptional level? And so that entire go-to-market process is what we specialize in delivering. And what we do is very custom. Again, each business is at a different point with different strengths and weaknesses. And so we put together custom packages, but usually we come in for 4 months. And what these companies leave with is a completely new and working revenue generation machine, and that sustains long after we stop working with them, right? So we always say our best clients don't renew, they graduate. And so we kind of help people get through whatever glass ceiling or plateau that they're at in their business and break through to the other side.
So when you were a kid, when you were 12 years old, what did you want to be? What was your dream gig?
So it's a great question. For a long time, I wanted to be a zoologist because I was like an animal person, loved animals, but I didn't want to work with sick animals. So veterinarian did not seem like the thing for me, right? So I wanted to be a zoologist. What happened is I turned out I really I grew up as like a very middle class person in an upper middle class town. And it came out with a pretty big desire to make money. And that was and it wasn't because I needed to buy anything necessarily, but it just seemed like a better life when I looked to the other side of the railroad tracks. And so as I got older than 12, I became very focused on kind of the best ways to do that. And my dad was like, hey, I have some clients that are in sales and do really well, and you're a little bit like them. Maybe you should go into that. I didn't know sales was a job. Even when I graduated college, I didn't understand that. But then I took that first sales job, and then kind of the rest is history from there.
What was the first big purchase you made after you made money in that job?
BMW 335 Xi.
Wow, that's a good answer right there. So, what was it early on in your life? What were the seeds that were planted that eventually harvested and became this successful business that you've become, this successful businessman? What happened early on that made you feel like that, and that this was your place in the world?
It's funny. So, I mean, I could talk about this. I went to school as a psychology major, so I'm fascinated by how human beings work and think, and certainly I've studied myself. I was overweight as a kid, so there was tremendous amount of insecurity that came with that. I always wanted the prettiest girls, and when you're an overweight kid, you didn't get those. And so one of the avenues I saw to working around that was to be successful in other ways. And so I really poured myself into sports. I poured myself into being learning how to excel in other areas where I had strengths. And but I'm very naturally a team player, meaning that when I played rugby for a really long time. When I score, I get a little bit embarrassed, put my head down and hand the ball back to the ref. When my teammates score, it's the best thing in the world, right? And so I naturally wired that way. I also am intrinsically driven to coach and teach. I used to sit in class and just think about what I would do differently if I were the teacher. As soon as I was old enough to start coaching the other kids in town in sports, I became one of the coaches for basketball. I started repping or eating in soccer. So I always loved the idea of helping other people get to where they want to go. And so the combination of those two things, I kind of I'm good with words, you could say. I'm passionate about helping people. I'm passionate about making money. And so all those things became a fuel, but driven by just deep insecurity, right? Which is kind of the fuel that makes it all work, which is like, okay, I have to prove to the kids on the other side of the track that have more money than me, and the pretty girl that was interested in somebody else, that I can be great too. And so for a long time that was it. And then many years ago I grew out of some of those things. But you you certainly need that fuel in the beginning to push through, because this is all hard, right? Business is hard, sales is hard, facing rejection is hard. But so is not being successful, and so is not having money. And so, it's all about choosing your heart, right? But for me, the choice was pretty easy. It was, as long as I was interested in what I was doing. And by the way, I have ADD, so if I'm not interested, it doesn't work. But when I am interested, I'm all in. And I can be obsessive in a really powerful way, and usually in a very positive way. And I love to see how far I can go. I'm in a war with myself. So another thing that's very interesting I learned about myself is my favorite rugby games I ever played in were some of the ones we've lost. And people would be like, "You're crazy," And I was like, "I played my best game, and I know that because the other person was still better than me. I left it all out there, and I found that to be so satisfying." And so that translates to the rest of my life too, which is, okay, if someone's better than me, great. As long as what it gets out of me is me figuring out how good I can be. If I gave it my all, I find it to be just so intrinsically satisfying. So it's a combination of all those things that led me to this particular point.
So, who's been a hero? Who's been an inspirational force for you in your life?
Yeah, something I've thought about a lot. In the short answer is I don't think of people that way. I don't have heroes. I have tons of people I admire for very specific things, people I looked up to, people who helped me become better versions of myself. There's something about the word hero, or just my own thoughts about it, that like I just I'm not wired to have it be that way. And I always, when I ask other people those questions, they'll be like, "Oh, my mom or my dad," and I certainly, that would be like a very inauthentic answer for me to give. Like I feel like my parents were great, but my natural personality was to be at war with them from the first day. Like I was always rebelling and trying to push through and do my own thing. And I have three daughters, and my middle one is exactly like me, and it's infuriating. I have real guilt about some of the things I did to my parents now, but I'm just not programmed for that hero thing. But in terms of admiration, it's changed. I go through different phases where I'm working on specific things about myself. I'm always trying to really work through some of the things that hold me back, and so I'll go through different phases where there's real voices that help me. Um, but I don't have an answer for the hero question.
So, let me ask you this. Somebody in the world of business right now, is there someone that you admire that you would love to meet, talk to, that might help you on your journey?
So Ray Dalio, I find very interesting, and I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah.
He was the founder for Bridgewater, hedge fund guy, and then has really dedicated the last 15 years of his life to teaching all the things that he learned to the rest of the world. And started out with Principles, which is like one of my favorite books. And even when I have people in my life who aren't readers, there's now like a children's version of the book, which is still a pretty intense read, actually. I give these books out a lot as gifts because it completely changed how I saw the world. But also really was great for me because I saw somebody who was kind of wired intrinsically the way I was, which is to be teaching and helping. And he was obsessed with creating this environment where motivated people could thrive. And that's like at my core. The reason I love building companies or doing consulting with companies is companies are just the people who work there. And so creating an environment where those people do the best work of their lives is so special. And so that's certainly one. And as I think about kind of you go like some of their inspirations, like if I look at like Netflix, you ever look at the Netflix culture deck and what they built there, just creating like these intense environments where people view work as like a professional sports team and not like a family, where there's a social contract that's actually written down for how we behave here and what we value and what makes us special. And by the way, no problem if you're not one of those people, but then you just can't be part of what we're doing. Really admire the clarity that those people provided to the mission they were working on and the people that were part of it. And so those are, if I thought about the people I wanted to meet with, it'd be the people involved there, that initial Netflix culture deck, and Ray Dalio.
So, the one thing that's always impressive about business leaders is that level of integrity and longevity. What is it for you that gets you up every day to do this work? To stay on top of market trends, to do a quality job, to take care of your soul, your family? What is that collective energy for you every day?
Come from so many places. The first one is I'm very internally focused. The team that I have with me, as small as it is right now, doing what we're doing, I love getting up every day and showing up for our morning huddle and creating an environment where those people are excited to come to work and doing the best work in their lives and learning and growing. And I only hire people who have that mindset, who want to be part of that growth journey, who are willing to go through the pain of realizing they don't know everything and are willing to uh, get kicked in the teeth over and over again to learn those lessons because that's kind of what business is. And as we kind of figure out the journey, and I think that's extra graphic in terms of the language, but I do see it as a a willing, wanting thing, right? Everybody wants to be successful, but what are you willing to go through to get there? And so, very internally focused. I love that those pieces of it. Uh, in this particular role, my favorite part is I get to go into these client businesses and make a difference, not only for those founders, but for the people on their teams. And when you have this outside perspective, and you get to go see all these different companies, you get to really provide feedback from a non-threatening place, right? Inside the bureaucracy of the company, everyone's kind of jockeying for position. There's different cultural battles, everything's going on, and you can come in and kind of over the top of that, try to really create clarity for the team and help them move forward. And you see how far an organization can come over 4 months. You just aligning some different things, and we don't really, we capture the essence when we even redo their messaging. We're not like saying this is the best messaging for the market. You need to become this. We're saying this is who you are. This is how you need to tell that story. But even the internal clarity that comes then from them being able to tell the story of who they are and what they do is magical to watch. And so I just love the process. I love all the weird people that we get to meet. And when I say weird, I mean that in the most affectionate way. I think that's what makes life beautiful is meeting different people. One of my great things is I tend to really like all kinds of different people. I can find an appreciation almost for anybody. And so I really love that part of it. And I get really every new project that comes across our desk, I find very exciting.
So, if you could have a dream tonight, run into that young version of you, say 18 years old, ready to change the world, and you could give that version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've led, choices you've made, wisdom you've accumulated, what advice would you impart?
Um, well, I didn't start reading until I was 35. If I could go back to 18-year-old me, I would have done that much sooner. And then I would also say is that I have a bias towards being cynical about things I don't understand. And then I also uh, decide very quickly if I'm interested or not interested in something, and then it can create blind spots. So, for instance, like I never bought Bitcoin. It wasn't that I wasn't aware of it. It was that it didn't make sense to me, and I didn't understand there was utility for it. And I was just like, oh, if that guy who I think less of in some way is getting rich off of this, then it's got to be a scam. I just like shut off to it in a way that like obviously I was very wrong about. And I can point to a lot of things I probably missed out in terms of opportunities where it was just like not understanding it right away, that leading to some sort of like bias or cynicism around even like getting to know more about it and then being dismissive of it along the way. And so, um, just really being open to all those different opportunities and the other piece of it is just realizing that there is literally opportunity everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I think you start in like you're like looking for the right moment or the right opportunity or the right job. It's like you just keep being excellent at what you're doing to find something you enjoy going at, like it's going to work out, right? And so I think for the most part, and you have to be resilient, obviously, but I think those are just some of the lessons I would say there is like, and by the way, just telling them like, hey, you're going to be okay,
Yeah.
right? Like I think a lot of I think I made a lot of like medium term decisions where I could have made long term ones, right? Where it was like you take some security over upside or whatever. And it's like, man, like I love some of Gary V stuff. He's like, yo, you're 22 years old. Like, who cares? Like, go bankrupt. Just like go. Like take chances. Like, and by the way, like my parents always had a house I could have moved back into. I wasn't going to starve. Like, I had a backstop, right? So, now would have psychologically, I think, I don't know, what maybe I wasn't prepared for that kind of failure in the moment. I took a lot of chances. Don't get me wrong, more than most. I started my own company in my 20s, but I think I would have even taken more risk if I could go back and talk to myself. And I would have a lot more fun in the moment doing it. I think I put so much pressure on it and you realize like it actually can just be fun and you have to enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
Right. I think that's some of the things I think I probably missed out on in my 20s and early 30s.
So, speaking of fun, let's say you walk into a room of all of the clients that you've had over the years, all of the colleagues, everyone that knows you in a business sense, and you can tell them one fun story. The best sport, the best game you ever witnessed in the stands, first concert you went to, jumping out of an airplane, outrunning a bear, climbing a mountain, some kind of fun story that would humanize you a little bit more to everyone that knows you in a business sense. What fun story would you tell that room of people?
So I have a couple of like transformative high school football stories that like were pretty like are pretty funny in hindsight, but in the moment were like something to really deal with, right? And I'll give you two that I think are quickly interesting. One is I've learned in life that kind of what you focus on expands, right? And at the time, I didn't know that, and so we had this football game where we were playing Hoboken in New Jersey. At the time, they were like one of the top teams in the country. They had two players in their team that ended up getting huge D1 offers. One played in the NFL. And one of their guys' name was Carlos Perez. He was a star at Florida as a wide receiver and played in the NFL for a little. And all week long in practice, I was a kicker. I was kicking off, and among other positions I played. And it's, don't kick the ball to Carlos. Don't kick the ball to Carlos. That's not hard. It's a big field. He's over there. You just kick it over here. No big deal. And I just said, okay, cool. Don't kick the ball to Carlos. And I went out to the tee and I kicked the ball. And I swear on a laser beam, it went right to Carlos.
Oh, no.
And now we're running down the field and he's coming down and we tackled him, but that play ended up on ESPN highlights of the when he was a featured recruit. And I just remember walking up the field and my coach looking at me like, and I was like, I don't know, like I had no explanation for it, but that was a really fun one. And then there was another one where we had a surprise onside kick planned, and we lined up off. And when I hit the ball, I missed it, and the ball actually went backwards. And that
Oh,
was a
no.
really embarrassing time for me too. And so kicking, by the way, I just should just let somebody else do that. But those moments were super humbling because, by the way, your whole school's watching,
Yep.
your team's watching. You put all that work into it. You're so focused on such a simple thing, right? You're at the gym all summer, all year, and it's like, hey, what you like to do is just kick the ball over here, and somehow it goes right to the one place it wasn't supposed to go. And so those moments create resiliency, but they also open your mind up just to like how your brain can play tricks on you, right? And any golfer will now tell you, right, as I get older, it's like if you say don't hit it in the bunker, don't hit it in the bunker, where does the ball go? In the bunker, right? And so in life now, I just choose to really focus on the positive and focus on where I think things are headed. And I think that if by focusing on that, you'll see all the opportunity that expands. If you're focused on failure, all the reasons things can go wrong, you will find those things as well. And so those are kind of my two little humanized stories that I think can shed some light, but also just talk about the psychology that goes into, it. You can have all the preparation in the world, but if you don't have the right mindset going in, or you're not thinking about it in terms of the positive instead of the negative, you're likely to find ways to sabotage yourself.
So I got one to counter you on this, and I don't think I've ever said this before in any of my stuff, but I remember when I was in high school, you know, height and weight can be a big deal, as we've talked about when you're growing up. I was 4'11" in high school and I wanted to play baseball, but I had this big lapse and I wasn't all trained up like everybody else. Make the team, working my ass off, trying to do it, and finally the coach lets me be a pinch runner. I get in the game, butterflies everywhere. I think I just blanked out. I was like, oh my God, I'm here. I'm finally doing it. And I think I let off and they threw the ball back. And when they threw the ball back, I was right off the bag by like an eighth of an inch. And that dude just popped me and I was out. I was like, God, it was my chance. It was my shot. And, but it's one of those moments that I think about where it's like, I guess my job was to warm the bench and just sit there and dream and just figure it out another way. But those moments they will hit you and they're formative for sure, you know?
I won't bore you with them, but literally I had three stories that popped up when you were telling that one because like it hits home. And yeah, I was not a natural athlete,
Yeah.
right? And, I think if you saw me now, even when I play with the guys like in the neighborhood, I still play a bunch of sports, like but I hold my own, right? But like I had to work extra hard at it, right? And so, but that I think became the formative part of my personality,
Yep.
which was, hey, if I'm talented enough that if I grind at this, the coach won't be able to cut me. I mean, I was so bad at basketball. I was like last man on the bench, but you couldn't cut me because it would have sent a bad message to everybody else because I was the guy diving on the floor and doing whatever it took. And I also got into one game where I shot the ball over the basket because like same thing, I blacked out. I literally, literally the moment was just too much,
Oh,
right? And
yeah.
so, um, luckily for me, I found some things that I was naturally better at, rugby, public speaking, those types of things. But it's yes, those moments are formative. But I also will say like the reason why I push my kids to play sports and they're not naturally into it, especially my two older ones, is because the adversity that comes from that is necessary. So because so you realize it won't kill you,
Yep.
right? Like you have to. I don't believe in protecting our kids from failure in any way. I believe exposing them to as much as they can until they've failed enough that they're no longer worried about it, right? Like that's to me kind of one of the secrets is I've been willing to fail in public for the last 20 years and willing to take chances and do all those different things and have egg on my face. And I don't actually it doesn't stress me out at all anymore. But I think all of that stems back to sports, right? It's like because once you once you kick the ball backwards on the kickoff in front of all your friends and
Yeah.
family and everybody else came to watch you play, like there's not a lot else
You
after
work
that, right?
up.
That's it, right? So, and by the way, it doesn't kill you. No one even remembers except for you,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like when I get, like, that's it, right? It's like for everybody else, it's nothing, but for you, right? And that's the biggest thing, right?
Yeah.
It seems like a big deal to you, but for everybody else moves on, and you have to move on with it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's throttle into something positive here of everything that you've done, accomplished, and more importantly, evolved to. What are you the proudest of?
Um, I have a bunch of people in my life who work directly for me over the years who have now started their own companies and are thriving. Uh, and I would say, and I've trained thousands of salespeople, or certainly more than 1,000. And once a week, somebody will reach out to me, somebody who worked with me 15 years ago, and be like, I just want you to know, like, I took this other job. They have none of the training stuff that you had. And the things that you taught me 15 years ago are the difference in why I'm winning right now. And so like that that is I'm beyond proud of that. I think to me that's my legacy. There was a transformative moment for me when I sold my first company and I was interviewing with the CEO at Princeton Mortgage, who I then ended up going and working with for 6 years. And he asked me, "What do you want people to say about you at your funeral?" I'd never heard the question before,
Yeah.
and I couldn't believe it. But like the answer kind of fell out of my mouth. Like I already knew, and I didn't even think through the answer until it was out of my mouth. But I said, "I hope there's a lot of people there who say I helped them get to where they want to go."
Yeah.
And I was already living that way pre that moment. Since that moment, I've been very intentional about it. But I do believe that there's a lot of people out there that if I died tomorrow, whether they actually made it to South Carolina for the funeral or not, would be one thing. But they would certainly say, man, like that guy helped me out. Like that guy helped me get better, helped me get to where I wanted to go, asked me what my goals were and cared. One of my, when I ask people, even that clients, I'm like, what are your goals? Like once they tell me those are now our goals, right? Like I'm gonna really work for that in a way that probably will become uncomfortable for you because I'm going to make you become the person capable or help you become the person capable of achieving that. But yeah, I love like just love that those moments. And when you see somebody winning and selling their company or these are things where like just making life-changing money or having the type of success that they were looking for, and then they think enough to thank you for it or to reach back out and say something, that's pretty amazing.
That's the stuff. So, Mark, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone that you've helped get to the next level of their lives, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Uh, it's funny. I don't know that I have like a real specific definition of that. I would say who I am is I bring a ton of passion and intensity to everything that I do. And I try really hard and mostly successfully to live by my rules of the game. And so what I'll say is I think I've been very thoughtful over time to think about, okay, what does it mean to me to be a good person and what are my rules for behavior for that? Um, and by the way, they may be very different from somebody else's, but I believe I live within my truth in terms of being the person and the man that I want to be. And I think I do that with intensely and passionately and with care for others, right? And so uh, that's really the biggest part of it. I might not always be the most sensitive person in the world, or I might be willing to make people uncomfortable. But again, those aren't part of my ethos, right? And I'm pretty upfront about that in an interview or even with my friends. Like, what you get from me is radical candor and radical transparency. If you're looking for someone to tell you it's not your fault, like that's probably I'm probably not the friend for that, right? And so I think I live that life of transparency about who I am, and I think I predictably deliver what you'd expect from me once you're in a relationship with me, whether it's professional or personal.
So, speaking of that, perfect baton toss. If anyone wants to reach out, hire you, ask questions, any of the good business, where do they go?
Yeah, so I'm all over social media as either Mark D. Gordon or Mark Douglas Gordon. The name of my company is Integrated Go to Market Solutions, and it's IGTMS.com. My phone number, my life, all of it's on my LinkedIn. You can find it there. Again, Mark D. Gordon. And so you can find us there. But yeah, if you or someone you know is a business owner and you've hit a plateau, you don't know how to get to the next stage, you've hired salespeople or sales leaders and they're not delivering the results you expected, or more importantly, they're not delivering you the results they delivered at their last job, it's not them, right? It's you, it's the company, it's the structure, and good news, because it's you, we can fix it. And
Yeah.
so, because if you were innocent, then you can't do anything about it, right? But if it's you, then we can fix it, and we can fix it quickly, right? It doesn't have to be, 4 months to transformation. So, if you're running a business out there and you're serious about becoming the version of yourself that can take the business to the next level, or building a team that can, that's what we help with. And so you can find us at any of those places.
All right, I will put that in the show notes. Mark, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. Continued success.
I enjoyed it, Joe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.